ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां नितये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् अपारकरुणासिन्धुं ज्ञानदं शान्तरूपिणं श्रीचन्द्रशेखरेन्द्रगुरुं प्रणमामि मुदान्वहं। सद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। So Guru, the Acharya has told what are Anatman, the Sharira Trayam, Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira. All these three are Anatman. They are not you, hey Sishya. The Guru said, and then the Guru has started explaining then what is the real Atma. That is what Guru has started explaining, and that is what we are seeing as well. So we will see the continuation. So before continuing, we need to take two things on our mind. The first thing is whenever we say Atman, we should not imagine Atman as a separate entity. Whenever the word Atman is used, we can convert, we can replace the word Atman with capital I. The real I, the Guru is talking about the real I. The Guru is talking about me. We need to have that conviction while studying Viveka Chudamani. We need to have in the background first. The second thing, this is not present in Viveka Chudamani directly, but this is the this is the crux of the Vedanta taken from Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. We need to have these five features in our mind whenever we talk about Atman, whenever we talk about the real self. What are they? I am not a part, product, or the property of my body. I am an independent entity that pervade and enliven my body. I am not limited by the boundaries of my body. I continue to exist even after the destruction of my body, and the remaining I after losing my body. I am not available for the transaction, not because I am absent, but because of the absence of the medium, which is my body. We need to have these 5 points at the back of the mind always 24/7. That itself is called as moksha. But at least while studying Viveka Chudamani class, let us have these 5 points at the back of our mind, and then study about the various features of Atman, so that we can understand about the Atman. What is Atman? We can understand about our own self very clearly. Just to give you a brief overview of whatever we have seen, a brief recap. First feature that the Acharya has explained is the Atman is the LCM of Shariratraya. We have three Shariras: Jagrat Sarira, Swapnavastha, and Sushupti Avastha. Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira. What is the Atman? Atman is that thing which is common for all the three Shariras. Just like how gold is the common, is the LCM of a chain, a ring, and a earring. In the same way, I am, whenever we say Atman, we have to replace it with I or self. I am the LCM of I am the common factor that connects the Jagrat Avastha, the Sthula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, and the Karana Sharira. That is the first feature, if we can say feature, that is the first feature, A1 of Atman. What is the second feature of the Atman that the Acharya has discussed? The second feature is Atman is the eternal observer and never observed. Meaning, I am the eternal observer and I can never be observed by my own self. Normally, we have all the external objects and we think the external objects are observed through our physical body, and that is what the first misplaced I. What is the first misplaced I? We mistake I as our physical body, and we think this physical body observes all the external objects. That is true, but mere physical body without a manas. Physical body is Sthula Sharira. The subtle body is Sukshma Sharira. Mere physical body, the Sthula Sharira, without a manas, without a Sukshma Sharira, cannot see anything. How do we know? What about a dead body? All the physical eye is there. A person might have a 20/20 vision. But if the Sukshma Sharira is not there, how much ever beautiful dance that is going in front of that body cannot see. Why? The body does not have the Sukshma Sharira or the Manas. Then the manas becomes the observer and the stula sharira, the physical body, becomes the observed. If we go on connecting the dot, Atman, that is my real self, that is I am the observer, and everything else, including my manas, becomes observed. So that is the second point that the Acharya has talked about Atman. And Acharya has started talking about another feature of Atman. The same feature, or a continuous, it's a continuous idea explained in three different shlokas. The first of that trilogy, the first of the three shlokas, Acharya says, Atman is that all pervading original consciousness which gets reflected in the mirror of body mind complex. Okay, I know it sounds very, very complex, but it is like the sunlight. Sunlight is only one, but the sunlight gets reflected in the moon. The sunlight gets reflected in all the different planets, and while observing from Earth, it looks as though lights are emanating from moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. But upon inquiry, we understand that the lights that are coming from Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Moon, etc., Mercury, etc., does not originate from their planets, does not originate from the planets, but it is just a reflection of the original sunlight. In the same way, whatever the consciousness that the body mind complex has, we feel that our body is conscious, we feel that our mind is conscious. Why? Because we can see things with our body, we can think things with our mind, so it looks as though the body and mind, they all are conscious. But upon further inquiry, we understand that the body and mind, they don't have consciousness by itself, but it only reflects a part of the original consciousness, that is Atman. And Atman is also all pervading. By saying Atman to be all pervading, Acharya says Atman is only one. There cannot be two things which is all pervading. If I say something is all pervading, that can only be one of it. If I say space, space is there everywhere. There are no two spaces. There is only one in, unmodified or undivided space, right? In the same way, there is only one Atman, but just like how we see separate lights from different planets, we see different bodies to be conscious, but they all are just a reflection of the original consciousness, that is Atman. This is the first idea in this series. And the author, Acharya, wants to extend this idea a little bit. He says, first, Atman gets reflected in the body mind complex. Second, he says, Atman enlivens the inert body mind. We say we are living. We say we are conscious. Where is that consciousness comes from? The consciousness comes from the Atman. The livingness of our body belongs to Atman. The Atman blesses our body to be living. How? Let us see. Yasya sannidhi matrena deha indriya mano dhiyaha vishayeshu swakiyeshu vartante prerita iva. He says, because of Atman's presence. Yasya sannidhi matrena. Atman does not have to do anything to enliven the body, but in the presence of Atman, yasya sannidhi matrena, deha, indriya, mano, dhiyaha, deha, the physical body consisting of, all the physical golaka, etc. And then indriya, mano, dhiyaha. Indriyas, manas, and dhi, the intellect. It means the subtle body. Both the gross body and the subtle body. We have to include the Sukshma Sharira, the Karana Sharira as well in this list. So, because of whose presence, the Stula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, and the Karana Sharira are enlivened. That thing is Atman. So, Atman now has got two jobs, as it were. Number one, it gets reflected in body mind complex. Number two, it also enlivens the body mind complex. Now he is going to add one more thing. But before adding one more thing, he says, so let us combine A3, the third version of Atman, the third feature of Atman is the Atman, the all-pervading original consciousness, which gets reflected in the mirror of body-mind complex. That is the first point we saw. The second point, we saw Atman enlivens the inert body mind. So if we combine those two, what do we get? The all-pervading original consciousness, which gets reflected in the mirror of body-mind complex, also enlivens them. So now convert all the Atman to the word I, the all-pervading original I, original self, am get reflected in the body-mind complex, and I enliven my body-mind complex. This is the conviction we all should have, at least while studying Viveka Chudamani and at the end of Viveka Chudamani. I am all pervading. My original self is all pervading, and a part of me gets reflected in the mirror of body mind complex. And while getting reflected, I enliven the body mind complex. Normally, before the study of Viveka Chudamani, before getting into Vedanta, what do we say? We say, I am the body mind complex, but now we say, I enliven the body mind complex. This is a very sukshma, this is a very subtle difference, but it makes a lot of difference if understood properly. Previously, we said, I am my body, I am my mind. Later, upon Shastra Vichara, upon Vedanta Vichara, upon Atma Vichara, we say, I am not my body mind complex, but I enliven this body mind complex. We own up something which is higher than the body mind complex. And in the process of owning up something higher, what do we also do? Whatever the doshas the body mind complex have, we are not that dosha. Somebody will have some defects in their body, somebody will have some defects in their mind. Some person will think, hey, I'm not smart as the other person. Some people will think, I am not beautiful as some person. And all those dosha darshanas will create an inferiority complex in the minds of those people when they think they are the body and the mind. But when we understand that we are not our body mind, but we enliven our body mind, then all of those doshas, that is, I am not beautiful, I am not smart, I don't have good vision, I cannot walk properly. All those doshas now belong to the body. Not an iota of all the doshas are in me. So that state is called as moksha. That is what we say, changing from dehatma bhava to an atma bhava. Changing from I am my body to I have a body and I enliven the body. So this is the second thing in this series that Acharya says. Apart from getting reflected upon the body mind complex, I also enliven my body mind complex. I am that entity which makes the body mind complex live. That is the conviction that we need to have. And science cannot find out that object because people have done a lot of research on this. People have even said there is some 23 grams or 43 grams, they said, that is the weight of human soul. Apparently somebody has found out that the weight of the human soul was 23 or 43 grams. I don't remember the numbers. All those things are BS. They have found out that it is not the actual weight of the soul. Apparently, the person weighed the human body just before its death, and he weighed the body after after the person has gone. And then apparently they found out a mass difference of 23 grams or 43 grams, and then they finalized that that is the weight of the human soul. But then even science itself proved that that is not true. That is pseudoscience. So with whatever microscope we see, we cannot find the weight of Atman, or we cannot see the Atman. Why? Because Atman is the seer which sees the everything. Now we need to go on with that series. Next he says, not only the Atman gets reflected in the body mind complex, gets enlivens the body mind complex. Atman also illuminates everything that is surrounding us. Let us see the shloka and then we'll see the meaning. It has a very profound meaning. Ahankaradi dehanta vishayascha sukhadayaha vedyante ghatavatena nityabhota swarupina. Vedyante is the important keyword. Atman, after enlivening the body, is the source of knowledge. It illumines everything that is surrounding the body. So let us see, let us think about this a little bit more. What do you mean by illumining something? We normally say light illumines everything. What does that mean? Light illumines things surrounding us. What does that mean? It means in the presence of light, we see everything. And if light is not present, we don't see everything, anything. That is called as illumination. If light is there, we are aware of everything that is surrounding us. If light is not there, we are not aware of everything that is surrounding us. That is called as light illumining all the objects that are surrounding us. Now, the question is, even when we turn off the light, even when we turn off the light, there is a darkness. What illumines that darkness? With what light we perceive the darkness? Normally, we say, with the help of light, I perceive everything that is surrounding me. I perceive this laptop in front of me because the light falls on this laptop. The laptop reflects a part of the light, and then that reflected light comes and falls into my eye. That is how I see the laptop. Okay, that's what I call that the light illumining my laptop. But now I turn off the light and everything is darkness. Okay. I not I am not I perceive the darkness. It is not that nothing is there and I don't see anything. I see darkness. I perceive that things are dark surrounding me. I perceive an absence in the absence of light. It is not that I don't perceive anything, but I positively perceive the absence of everything. Now the question is, what illumines the darkness? If I turn on a light to illumine the darkness, then the darkness will go away. Right? If I turn on a light to illumine the darkness, I can turn on a light to illumine a laptop. I can turn on a light to illumine my room, to illumine the room. But I cannot turn on a light to illumine darkness, because the moment I turn on the light, darkness goes away. But without having to turn on a light, I perceive the darkness. That is what is called as the illuminating power of Atman, tamas of parastat, says Shastra. Tamaha means darkness. Tamas of parastat, that thing because of which even darkness is understood. That thing because of which even absence of things are understood. That thing is called as Atman, and that thing is Maha illuminating. Because we cannot call light as all illuminating, because when I turn on the light, darkness goes away, and light cannot illumine the darkness. With light, I cannot perceive darkness. But in with Atman, I can perceive everything, including darkness. And that's what here it says, Vedyate. ahankaradi dehanta vishayascha sukhadayaha vedyante ghatavattyena nityabhota swarupina. Because of Atman, but I illumine everything that is surrounding me. So Atman now has got three functions in relation to my body. What are the three functions? Atman gets reflected in my body mind complex. Atman enlivens my body mind complex. And because of those two, Atman illuminates everything. Now, strike out the word Atman, replace the word Atman with the word I. I get reflected in my body mind complex. I enliven my body mind complex, and I illuminate everything that is surrounding me. And this illumination, this illuminating power is called as Divi or Deva. What is the source of the word Deva? Devaha comes from the root word Divi, to illumine. Divi means brightness, to illumine. Devaha. Apparently, all the devas have a source of light within them. That is why, if we see a picture, all those deva will have a halo surrounding their head, which suggests that a light is coming from them. But Atman is Mahadevaha because it is the greatest illuminator which can illuminate even darkness. So Devadi Devaha Mahadevaha is Atman. So these are the three features of Atman with respect to the body. I get reflected in my body-mind complex. I enliven my body-mind complex. By doing so, I illumine everything that is surrounding me. So these three features we need to understand. If you guys don't understand it, it is okay, because Acharya is going to repeat these concepts again and again in one form or the another. There, if you don't understand it here, I'm pretty sure you will understand later. And now he is trying to sum up all the features of Atma, but he is doing so in a very peculiar fashion. All the words that he is using in the shloka is taken from Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. If you take each and every shloka, each and every word in this shloka, each and every word has got a reference in either Upanishads or in Bhagavad Gita. By doing so, Acharya says two things. One, whatever the concept he says, it is not his own imagination, it is not his own theory, but all the things that he says has got a basis in Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. That is point number one. And point number two, this is called as pratyabhijna. By using familiar words, Acharya thinks if you read those Upanishads, you can connect it to Viveka Chudamani. This is just like how we do in our Arya Shatakam classes. When we try to explain Arya Shatakam, what do? We derive all those meanings from Lalita Sahasranamam or Abhirami Andadi. Why? Because whenever we read Lalita Sahasranamam, we can then connect Arya Shatakam to Lalita Sahasranamam, right? In the same way, he is using the same words that are used in Upanishads because he wants us to do the connection. So if we read Viveka Chudamani, we will remember things from Vedanta. If we read Upanishads by having these shlokas, when seeing the shlokas, we will, we can remember things from Viveka Chudamani. So that is a peculiar way of teaching. It is a method of teaching called as Pratyabhijna, and that is what Acharya is using in this verse. And each and every word has got a very profound meaning, which we will see. First, let us see the shloka and then see the meaning for the shloka. Yeshontaratma purushah puranaha nirantara khanda sukhanubhutihi sadaika rupah pratibodha matraha yene shitavagasavascharanti. He says, let us see word by word, because each and every word has got a very beautiful significance behind it. The first word is Yeshaha. Yeshaha literally means this. Yeshaha literally means this. I want to point out that whenever in Vedanta these words come, this, that, he, Yeshaha, Saha, Tat, these are the key words in Vedanta. And whenever these words come, invariably they refer to Paramatma. Invariably they refer to Atman. Tat Tvam Asi. We say Tat Tvam Asi. Tvam means you. Asi means that you are. Tvam asi means you are. But what is the meaning of the word tat? Literally, tat means that. But that refers to the word that here refers to Atman. So tat, saha, soham bhavayet, saha aham bhavayet. Saha means that. Saha aham bhavayet. I am that. What is I am that? That could be a car, that could be a monkey, that could be a donkey. But whenever Vedanta says the word saha, it refers to Atman. In the same way, whenever we see the word yeshaha, this refers to the word this yeshaha refers to Atman as well. Okay, yeshaha means this. Antaratma, me. Atma is the personal pronoun, right? Antaratma, by saying Antaratma, inside me, Acharya says here the Atma, the personal pronoun, does not refer to the body, but it refers to the original self. So, Yeshontaratma means this real self, this real me, this real I. Who am I? Purushaha. Purushaha means Purushaha. Puru, body. Puraha. Previously we have seen, while referring to the subtle body, the Sukshma Sharira, Acharya says it is apparently a city. He said, right? Puru means city. Puraha. Puram. Antahpuram. Or some Puram, this Puram, R.A. Puram and all we say, right? Puram means literally a city. Purushaha means that person who lives in the city is called as Purushaha. Since Atma enlivens the body, and since body is called as Puraha, Purushaha refers to Atma. So, Yeshontaratma Purushaha. This Atma, this real me, am enliven the body. I enliven the body, says Acharya. The next word is Puranaha. Puranaha. What is the meaning of the word Puranaha? Pura api navaha. Pura means old. Navaha means new. Even though it is very old, it looks very, very new. Means Atman is not bound by space or time. What do you mean by old or new? When we say old, means it came early in the time. So it has a date of birth. Pura. It came very, very early. Navaha means it came recently. So it has one position in the space or time. If it has one single position in the timeline, that is what we say Pura or Navaha, old or new. But when we say Puranaha, it is old but new, means it transcends the concept of time. We have to supply the concept space here. So Puranaha means Atman is not bound by space or time. So Yeshontaratma, this real self, this real me, Purushaha, I enliven the body and I am not bound by space or time. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भवितो वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे, says Acharya, says Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. There the word Puranaha is being used, and Acharya uses the same word in order to remind us that the same Puranaha that Acharya is talking here is nothing but the same Atman that Krishna refers to in Bhagavad Gita. So we have just seen the meaning of the first line in this class. We will, in the next class, we will see what is Nirandara Khanda Sukhanubhutihi, what is Sadaika Rupaha, what is Pratibodha Matraha, and what is Yene Shitavaga Savascharanti. We will see the meaning, very detailed meaning of all the remaining words in the next class. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः